Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Reignmakers Fantasy Golf Show presented by DraftKings Reignmakers. And we're in the midst of a pretty epic playoff run from none other than Lucas Glover, who, if you mentioned Lucas Glover's name literally 1 month ago, I would say the average person that consumes golf may have heard his name, but would have absolutely no idea who Lucas Glover is, was, or had been. But man, when you start to putt as well as Lucas Glover has putted in the course of the last 2 weeks, and you can strike the ball as well as he always could strike the ball, you're going to make some waves. You're going to make a name for yourself. You're going to reinvigorate your career. You're going to get asked about trying to make the Ryder Cup team. You're going to just be the top story in all of golf, and that is what Lucas Glover is right now. Gets his second victory in a row in a playoff against Patrick Cantlay. Felt like, quite frankly, Tej, until like the back nine on Sunday, it felt like Glover was literally on a waltz out there and was just gonna, walk to his second victory in a row. He finds the water on the par 3 and somehow makes a 30-footer for bogey. And I was listening to this in the car driving back from hanging out with you, getting my butt kicked in golf over the weekend. And when I heard that putt go in, I thought, wow, this is going to be a pretty fantastic finish. I got home to catch the playoff. It was an awesome playoff, awesome finish. Glover gets the victory and has moved from 116th on the FedEx Cup points list 2 weeks ago to number 4 on the list with 2 wins in a row, squarely in the conversation for Ryder Cup now, squarely in the conversation for winning the FedEx Cup playoff. I mean, has there ever been a better 2-week stretch in golf? I haven't been watching golf all that long, but no better 2-week stretch in golf than I can think about. What did you think about this past weekend? Any quick thoughts? And of course, where are we at on the glove man?
Yeah, Glover on fire right now. I was just looking at his performance all season long. So he missed 10 out of his first 16 cuts from January till the end of June. And then starting in July, 4th, 6th, 5th, miscut, 1st. So that's quite the turnaround from not a lot of time period. And yeah, not often you see people win back-to-back on the PGA Tour either, especially when the second half of the back-to-back is in as strong a field as you're going to get in the FedEx Cup playoffs. So yeah, like you said, Glover always someone who's strikes the ball well and, is typically more of just a consistent ball striker, cut maker kind of guy. You don't typically see him making deep runs like he has been lately, but hot putter can do it for anyone. And we'll see if he keeps it up heading into this week's tournament.
Yeah, I will quickly tilt on the beginning of the show because I think it's worthwhile, because I think it's on brand for me. The no-cut events just hit different. If you're out there and you think they're just as good, I would love to hear from you as to why you think they're just as good. It's just, I always am going to miss the Friday cut sweat. I always am going to be thinking about the cut sweat. But in these playoff events, it's honestly a different mindset for the golfers, I think, which is unique in terms of, how they approach pretty much every other week on the schedule, where, on Friday, if you're not playing so good, if you're in the bottom half of the field, you're looking up and you're kind of like, playing in the weekend, you're heading home and you're regrouping, you maybe get a practice session in, but, in the playoffs, you're right back at it on Saturday and you're teeing off early. You're trying to put up a number to get back in the mix. I think the up and down on the leaderboard is something that is fun. It's just not as fun as a cut sweat. So, to me, I think that is one of the most nuanced elements here of the FedEx Cup playoffs and the format, changing everything about how we enjoy and consume golf, to me, is something that is a little bit hard to wrap your head around from a playoff standpoint. I'm interested to see how these next couple of weeks go because we have some wild stories, runs like Glover, Rory in the mix, Cantlay playing really well. I think Cantlay, I heard this stat, if he won last week, would have won 4 out of 7 of the last 2 years worth of playoff events, which is absolutely insane. Talk about turning it on all at the right time. So yeah, to me, I wanted to get it out there, on brand. Anyone that's watched this show, anyone that's listened to any content that I've put out there, the cut sweat is my favorite sweat. It's the best sweat in fantasy sports, in my opinion. And I just missed it drastically this past week. So to me, looking at your phone, looking at the leaderboard on Friday, determining which lineups you're going to get a good sweat out of is, pretty much one of the most fun parts of fantasy golf. And I missed it. And yeah, I'll say that. Any thoughts you have on these no cut events from a playoff standpoint?
Well, it wasn't very good for my sweat this weekend because I did go ahead and make a DFS lineup, which I hadn't done in a while. And I had Lucas Glover in it, had a couple other guys that were doing pretty well in it. And I was never anything crazy, but I was cashing all week long until the very end, and then missed cash by like 15 fantasy points or something. And I feel like if there was a cut, that would never happen, right? Typically, if you're in the money come Saturday with a cut, you're just climbing up and not really worried about going back down. So that's my personal bias based on this weekend. But yeah, overall, definitely more of a fan of the cut with golf. I think it makes the first 2 days a completely unique sweat from the Sunday sweat with the winner. But yeah, end of the season we get the no cut events. I know they're throwing a couple more no cut events into the mix for next season, so it seems like it's just something that maybe we're going to have to get a little more used to and having no cut in more of the tournaments than we have in the past.
Yeah, I completely agree. Tough finish for the team that you had. It was, I had sort of similar impacts. I didn't play any DFS, but in Reignmakers, man, I was doing so well. Elite Guaranteed was cashing pretty high in some of the rare contests. And then the weekend came and my guys just played poorly. I just couldn't get anyone to make any birdies. The guys that did make birdies made 2 in a row, couldn't make that third one, ended up falling out of the cash. And just about all the events, except for the playoff events, was fortunate enough to cash in both playoff lineups that I put together. I really think there's some decisions to be made this week for the playoff events. I know last week it was a question of, hey, I have some playoff cards. Should I be using them in the guaranteed contest, which I think you could do last week. But this week, with the prize pool for playoffs doubling from 50K to 100K, with the field going from 70 to 50, I think you're really going to want to be putting all of those playoff cards to use in that playoff contest. Probably going to be one of the most fun contests this week on DraftKings Reignmakers. So really looking forward to putting together both an elite guaranteed team with you and a playoff team with you here this week. The other comment that I'll make on the playoff contest is it's quite clear that people are enjoying the playoff contest, and it's even possible, I'm speculating here, but it's even possible that people that might have been tertiary to Reignmakers, that might have tried Reignmakers in the beginning, but maybe didn't have that much focus on it. Maybe there's even some DFS players out there that play, more full-time golf DFS that are jumping over into these playoff contests for Reignmakers, because I know I was talking to several people in our community. Packs have been selling like hotcakes at above the price that they initially were selling for. I think packs are going for like $115, $120. They were initially $99. Almost everybody in terms of the big names in the marketplace are up. Just looking at the rares on the marketplace, $165 for Scotty, $135 for Rory, who, interestingly enough, I think it's the first time maybe all season that we have Scotty Scheffler and Jon Rahm in an event, and neither one of them are the odds-on favorite at the current moment. Rory McIlroy, the odds-on favorite per our site at the moment, otmnft.com, players and market tab. You can see all of the odds. Rory coming in at plus 650, so sits above Scotty and Rahm this week. All of these prices are up. Cantlay $90, Hovland $88. I think they're up, definitely up from 2 weeks ago when these packs first came out. So I'm not sure if there's new players coming into play these Reignmakers events, but I will say this: a $20K prize pool a $20,000 prize to first place in that contest this week, and then a $50,000 prize to first place in next week's event. What's the Rounders quote, Tej? Give us the Rounders quote here. The stakes will attract the sharks. What's the Rounders?
Oh yeah. They attract the rich whales and flounders, and they in turn attract the sharks.
Exactly. So I
Does
think
seem
there's a
like
little
that
bit.
is the case of what may be going on here.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of that happening. So if you're out there with playoff assets, if you're looking to, make a few bucks, if you bought those a couple of weeks ago, you're definitely up on those cards. But you're looking at, if you can put a couple good lineups together. We just had Lucas Glover win an event, guys. You didn't need to stack up Scheffler, Rahm, Rory to win. You needed Captain Lucas Glover. So if you've got cards, you want to get them in a good spot to be used in these playoff contests. I think they're going to be really fun over the course of the next 2 weeks. All right. Anything else to say on the FedEx before we jump into the BMW Championship, Olympia Fields, a 50-person event? Any final words on the FedEx St. Jude?
Yeah, just think the last point you said, anything can happen in golf on any given weekend. And we found that out again as Lucas Glover takes on as stacked a field as you get on the PGA Tour. So makes it one of the fun parts about Reignmakers. You have these cards that you think maybe quote unquote aren't valuable, but any given week, any card can be the card that you need. And I think as we get into the picks and lineups here, obviously where the player pool is shrinking each and every week, so the decisions become fewer and further in between. A lot of the game at this point is just kind of playing out your collection and what you have, but we'll still try to give you little tips and tricks along the way and different things that we're thinking about as we look for these last two contests here in this ball. Plenty of contests after that, but the last two of the kind of regular season, I would say.
Yeah, the two big ones, the two times we're going to see Scotty again, Rory again. We'll see these guys in the Ryder Cup. The Ryder Cup's still several weeks away. I mean, it's not till the end of September here. We're in middle of October. Middle of August. There's going to be, a lot of fall golf where the fields are going to look very, very different. Stark contrast to this 50-person field that we're going to talk about today. All right, let's dive into it. First, want to say hello to all of you out there watching the show. We're moving to kind of one show a week. I know the shows that TJ and I have done together have typically been, focused on trying to put together an audio type podcast. This week, we're going to share some screen. We're going to talk through plays. We're going to build a couple of lineups. We're going to say hello to the chat. If you got questions, fire them in there. I see one out there. First with the JMs, JM Stogie, JM Josh Allen. Stogie echoing that he hates the non-cut stuff. Yeah, you definitely want the cut sweat. I really do believe it's one of the best sweats. JM de Glib with the question. He says, see Glover for $40 for a playoff rare. Is it a bargain? I think it is. I really do believe that it is. And maybe that's just personal bias. But in golf, when somebody turns it on, like Lucas Glover, when he figures out one part of his game, you can really make some strides. And, Lucas Glover was no slouch. He's a major champion winner. He's won 2 weeks in a row now. I mean, heck, he was 90-1 to win, I believe. I saw some 90-1 tickets cashing. Nobody thought he would win 2 weeks ago. Nobody thought he would repeat again this week. And I mean, when you're really playing as well as he's playing, you got all the confidence in the world. I loved his down to earth attitude on the Ryder Cup. Got asked directly right after his win, has he thought about the Ryder Cup? And he said, and I quote, as of 15 minutes ago, I thought about it. And they said, well, what did you think? He said, I think I haven't made it and I want to. The most direct answer you could possibly ever get. So, talk about someone playing at the top of their game and with a ton of confidence. It's Lucas Glover. So for $40, I think it could be a bargain when you look at the pricing on, Scotty Scheffler. Remember, Lucas went to number 4. So there's just about no way he doesn't play next week in the Tour Championship. You aren't going to see, 25 guys jump Lucas Glover. It's just not going to happen. There's not enough places. There's not enough points to be had out there. So he's pretty much all but a lock to play next week in the Tour Championship. So you're going to get 2 weeks of utility from that $40 purchase. So I do think it's a pretty good buy. Let's go through like we always do. Top of the board. I'm on the market page today, focused on the playoff cards here. Just think it's the easiest way to look at things. You can also see every player and the odds that the players have on the players page. But we'll keep the conversation to the market page for now. At the top, Rory, Scotty, Rahm, as always, Tej. These are the 3 guys, the big horses to win. But what sticks out to me is Patrick Cantlay, plus 1,000, and then the jump plus 1,600 to Vic Hovland. Definitely Cantlay kind of squeezes himself up in there in terms of the betting market. Not sure that it really matters all that much for fantasy. We know Cantlay's been a great golfer. The question is, can he win? Should we captain him? Should we be thinking about Cantlay over a Rory, a Scotty, or a Rahm in terms of captains? What's your take on this jump up the odds board from Cantlay? And do you have anybody you like at the top of the board that separates themselves from anyone else?
Yeah, I feel like it's the first time we've seen Cantlay really creep into that top tier. So I'm not. I mean, Cantlay's been playing well, but not overreacting. I still think that the top three are in a tier of their own, just in terms of overall golf ability. And yeah, we know it's gonna be a difficult course here, and on difficult tracks. Jon Rahm. I know Jon Rahm struggled last week a bit, but always someone that I feel like on the tougher courses tends to rise towards the top. And so he was the first one that kind of stuck out to me. As always, can't go wrong with any of these 4 guys up top. But I've got Rahm as my favorite for this week, whereas last week I was more on the Scheffler train, which also didn't go the greatest, although he kind of figured it out down the stretch. But yeah, that's where I'm at here with the top tier.
Yeah, I am, for the first time since I called Rory winning at Augusta and him going on to miss the cut. I am, for the first time, thinking Rory might be my favorite play here. Long course, par 70. You're going to need to kind of battle to make pars. And I would typically agree that I would usually favor Rahm in a spot like that. But I just think that Rory has a little something extra in the tank. I think that his game is really, really solid. In terms of like baseline, I think Rory has shown all season that he's like been playing his B-ish golf, and he's just doing really, really well. He's got tons of top 10 back doors. I could see Rory playing some solid golf and shooting all 4 rounds under par here somehow, where it's like -2, -1, -1, -1 to take a lead in this golf course. Olympia Fields, like you said, is hard. We haven't seen it that often. That's very interesting to me. We saw it in 2020, I believe, at this event, and Jon Rahm won. Interestingly enough, Rahm went +5 on Thursday to open things up, followed that up with a +1 round, and then basically went -10 on the weekend, -6, -4 Saturday and Sunday to win the event in a playoff with Dustin Johnson. So I really think that, between Rahm and Rory, that's my decision this week, which feels incredibly interesting, leaving Scheffler off the table. And I agree with you. I'm not buying Cantlay. I have some Cantlay in my collection. I'll certainly be using him. I think that's, first and foremost, like, use the best cards, put your best lineups together. We say this every week. We'll continue to say it. But clearly Lucas Glover wins last week, and you need to take some shots so that you're differentiating yourself. But Cantlay, I'm still playing him. I just think he's not in that tier of Rory, Scheffler, Rahm just yet. We'll see how he follows up. Pretty damn good performance last week with the BMW Championship this week.
And we've got Stogie here saying, last week played the top 3 together, didn't work out. Do I still go back to the well this week? I think it's actually the perfect time to go back to the well on this kind of construction, for the exact reason of the fact that you're asking this question, right? Recency bias is always a thing. People that maybe played these guys last week and aren't happy with some of the performances. Obviously, Rory ended up towards the top there. What was he, T3 last week? But yeah, I think continuing to go back to the well there is a perfectly fine strategy. I just think it's, as we talked about previously, good to then differentiate in at least one of those final 2 spots if you are going ahead and putting Rory, Rahm, and Scotty all into one lineup.
Yeah, let's talk about some differentiators. I guess before we do that, I want to hit on Tommy Fleetwood. Tommy Fleetwood now, I think, is pretty much on the top of the money list on the PGA Tour for guys who have not won. Fleetwood very much in contention, had a putt on 18 to get into a three-way playoff between Cantlay and Glover, just came up short. Fleetwood's been playing fantastic golf. So he's one guy that I really do believe in. I think Fleetwood does play good in harder courses. So maybe Olympia Fields is the kind of course where he can grind out some pars. His putter has been solid, but he hasn't made anything, honestly, since the Open Championship, where he had just about every chance to win, hit it so damn good, just couldn't putt. So I really like Fleetwood this week. So to me, if you go with those top guys, you mix in a guy like Fleetwood, and then you go a little further down the board, I think that would be unique. I don't think if people are playing Rory, Scotty, Rahm together, I think they're going to a Cantlay, a Xander, a Hovland, a Homa, before they would go to Tommy, most likely, especially if they've got that collection. So yeah, I really think it's interesting to talk about differentiation in a couple of different ways. And to me, like skipping a few guys, going to a Fleetwood, and then going down even a little further to, back on Hatton. Hatton to me didn't play that great this past weekend. Maybe comes in a little bit under-owned. I think Hatton has showed all season long he's one of the best ball strikers in the world. So to me, these are the kind of guys I would be coming back to. Even Hideki Matsuyama, I think of Hideki as a guy who plays better on courses that are harder because he just doesn't putt as good as other guys. So he's not going to make birdies from 15, 20, 25 feet. He's going to have to hit it pretty good. So I like Hideki a good bit as well. Interested in who you think would be a solid differentiator, someone to differentiate that top lineup of, Jammin, Rory, Scotty, Rahm. Where would you go?
We got people in chat liking Tommy Fleetwood. I'm also on the Tommy Fleetwood train here. Just been playing some great golf over the past couple of weeks. Actually, I'd say even months at this point. 3 straight top 10 finishes here. In his last 6 events, he's finished in the top 10, 5 out of the 6 with just 1 miscut at the Travelers. So Fleetwood continuing to play good golf on all kinds of different courses too. And I think I like him on this difficult track. Max Homa, someone else that I was checking out there. Not that he's going to get you any kind of crazy differentiation, but I do definitely like Homa. Our boy Tony Finau letting us down yet again last week.
Chat, I have to let you guys know this.
Nearly dead
I have
last.
to let you know this. TJ played DFS last week. He could have picked any golfer in the field. He's been saying for a month that Tony Finau is not very good, and somehow he landed on Tony Finau. I don't understand it. Chat, help me out. I don't think we see TJ play
landed
Tony
on Tony
the rest of the golf season. He is officially blacklisted. Going to be selling off his Tony Finau assets. How did you land on
make sense? He started off with a 67 round 1 too. Like he was off to a good start, and then just doing classic Tony things. So I'm off Tony again this week. Although I say that every week, but then when it comes time to click the button, sometimes your mouse, your thumb just finds its way hovering over that Tony Finau. You think, what if this is the week? What if this is the time? Stogie gets it. Galaxy brain.
We've said it once, folks, and we'll say it again. Get your outright bets on Tony Finau plus 3,500 to win. Gonna be a fade for TJ. Tony's gonna find himself into my lineups for sure. I've got an elite Tony, so we're gonna build a couple of teams. We're gonna build an elite guaranteed, and we're gonna build a playoff lineup.
We're gonna use him. I'm in on Tony. You know what? I'm martingaling this. You just keep doubling down. He's got to hit eventually. Hopefully, when he hits, you take advantage of it. But he has been struggling. Morikawa was another guy that was kind of a chalky play last week. Had a strong start, but kind of tailed off as we ended the weekend. I think he still finished in the top 15 somewhere. Another guy that does well on difficult courses. Harmon, we've been on pretty much all year, like him again. Corey Connors, I always kind of view him as like a John Rahm light at some of these more difficult tracks, and just in general always tend to like Corey Connors. So usual cast of characters down here. And, these are all the guys that we've been kind of liking all season, right? We've been on Griot, we've been on Straka, Keegan, Siwoo Kim, all of these guys by now I feel like have proven themselves throughout the season. They've all got little bit of differences in terms of their games and the strength of their games, but that little section that we've got right there of Keegan all the way down through, I'd say Poston is a nice way to get different. And as we've seen with Glover, would not be terribly shocked to see one of them creeping up into the top 5 when it's all said and done on Sunday.
I think two things here. It feels really good in this range right here, like Keegan to Poston, like you said. I really do agree. Like these guys, I can see having spike weeks. I can see playing well. It's a hard course. So, a hot putter, someone who finds 14, 15 fairways, gives themselves a lot more chance to just make easy pars, I think is going to run up the board. This number here, Taylor Moore at plus 8,000, just feels pretty much like the entire season. It just feels disrespectful. Taylor Moore, pretty good round, pretty good tournament last week. Yeah, he probably didn't play as good on Sunday as he wanted to, but like in general, for him to be sitting at plus 8,000 and for Glover to be sitting, all the way up at plus 3,000. Yes, Glover won, but yeah, I just think that's a little bit disrespectful. And then a couple of guys that are interesting down here, Cole, who's been playing really good, and Denny McCarthy, who can put the lights out, plus 10,000. Definitely some interesting numbers on these guys. Again, I'm just using odds as baselines here for separating golfers and having conversation. But I do think it's going to be interesting to see what happens in this field this week, especially on a hard course. If someone goes out in any one of these 4 rounds and puts together a -4, -5, -6 round, they're going to find themselves near the top of the board, just given the history of how Olympia Fields has played. We haven't seen it that often, but we've seen guys shoot Jon Rahm +5 and then come back and win the event. So it's going to be the kind of week where, even more so in this no cut event, where you're kind of never out of it. You want your guys to have like mental fortitude to just keep going out there, to keep making pars, to keep staying in the mix. And a streak here or there, a bogey free round here or there can really separate you, especially at that captain spot where you're getting that 1.5x. So this is just the kind of week that you're almost never out of it when it comes down to who's playing well, where you sit on the leaderboard. It really is going to feel like it's never over. Anybody else you want to call out down in this range, Tej? Otherwise, I think it's time to, I'm going to check Discord, see if we got any other questions. And then I think it's time to build a couple of lineups.
Yeah, let's do it. I think we covered them all and talking about these guys many times. So good to move on.
Yeah. So a couple of Discord questions before we build a lineup. Like this question from Sports Freak. Again, shout out to everyone in our Discord. The Reignmakers channel has just been absolutely blowing up. There's both Reignmakers NFL chatter now. There's Reignmakers PGA chatter. Everyone's trying to figure out what to do with playoffs. What are the fall events going to look like? Who's playing in fall events? A couple of things I saw. Sports Freak says, any ideas on how they will do Ryder Cup scoring or tournaments? This is something I'm going to be looking into over the course of the next week or two. I don't exactly know how they're going to do Ryder Cup scoring. One, with the Ryder Cup, there's multiple different formats. They'll play 4-ball, they'll play foursomes, and then they'll play singles matches. Going to be really interesting to see what kind of scoring format that DraftKings has in store for us. I don't know if they've done Ryder Cup contests before. I personally have not played any Ryder Cup formats in terms of DFS. Have you played any Ryder Cup formats in your past there, Teach?
I don't think I have, no.
Yeah. So I'm very interested to see what they come up with for Ryder Cup. And then I saw a couple other questions about the fall schedule. Who's going to play in the fall events? Who do we think could play? One, I think looking at past events is probably a pretty decent, past year's events at these tournaments is probably a pretty good indicator of who may come back. Someone like Max Homa at Fortinet is defending his title. He's actually defending a two-peat. So he's defending back-to-back wins. So I have to imagine that Max Homa is going to play the Fortinet. Some other guys seemingly always either one, have a sponsor who is hosting the event that they're going to play in for sponsorship reasons. All of the guys that are in the top 50 as of this week are going to get into all the designated events next year. So they really don't have a quote unquote ton to play for in these fall events. I think you're going to see guys that are ranked 70 through 150, 70 through 200 in terms of the FedEx Cup points list, playing a lot. The guys like Dylan Wu and guys that are just like trying to make a name for themselves on the PGA Tour. I think rookies as well. Like I could see Sahith playing a couple of these events because he's rookie. He's trying to get his status up. He's trying to make sure he's getting into all the events that he wants to get into. So I'm going to be diving into historical fields at these events and trying to bring that forward here a couple of weeks in advance of these events happening. But I do think that's how we should be attacking these fields. Obviously, trying to stay on top of any commits from big name players who commit a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks in advance just to try to iron out their schedule. That will be big in terms of price jumps. But yeah, for me, the fall schedule is going to be all about these newer guys making a name for themselves on the PGA Tour and trying to earn not just their tour card, but status to potentially get into not only the designated events, but we know that the week before these designated events are going to be full field PGA Tour events where if you finish in the top 5, you're going to play right into the designated event. I mean, every PGA Tour player next year is going to be wanting to get into these designated events. $20 million purse, $4 million to $3 million to first place. Should be very, very interesting to see how it all pans out, especially now that there are no cut events. So the fact that there are going to be a couple no cut events here means that guaranteed money for anybody that just gets in that field. You don't even have to go out and make a cut like you do on the PGA Tour normally. As you all know, if you don't make a cut, you don't make any money. So if you're in these designated events with no cuts, you're going to automatically get a check. So it should be very interesting to see who plays and try to do some investigative discovery on who might play some of these events as we go forward. So I just want to call that out. A couple of good questions on that. And I know we've got some sleuths in that Discord who will have all of the information as it pops up and as it presents itself to us. All right. Let's build a couple teams. Gonna build a elite guaranteed first, and then gonna build a playoff team. Want to see what you're thinking here, Tej. Let's combo build this week. I do want a little Tony Finau, so I know you're going to be hesitant. I don't know.
Are we captaining Tony? That's the question.
Yeah, it is the question. I do think I kind of want to captain Tony.
Baby.
I feel like it could be, and I've said this is like goes against what I've said in the past. On hard courses, can Tony make pars? Can Tony just survive? And I don't know that his game is there to do that. But I'm not sure that Tony's going to win in a birdie fest against this hard of a field. And he needs to win. Like he wants to get up there and make a name for himself and win in one of these big name events, these big field events where all the best players are playing. It just feels like could be sneaky this week to me. So I like Tony. And then I'm interested in where you are on Poston and Grillo. To me, I've got a soft spot for Grillo. We know that. Poston has been playing pretty good. They both played half decent last week. We probably need a little bit more there. Poston needs to play into the top 30. So I think that's kind of interesting that he's got a ton to play for to try to get into that top 30. So I'm interested in your take. Poston or Grillo here. Where would you be going?
Man, it's a tough one. They've both been playing really well. Poston's been on absolute fire. We talked about him last week. Grillo is someone that I know you've been on all season long. And yeah, I feel like I've been on him for years at this point and just think that he's, generally a solid golfer. Oh, it's tough. I kind of want to go Poston. Largely, the thing that scares me about Grillo on more difficult courses is sometimes his short game can be a mess, although he's been better with that sometimes lately. All this to say, I don't know that I have a strong lean. I think they're pretty comparable plays. Which guy is kind of screaming at you this week?
Yeah, I like the Poston call. I'm nervous on Grillo's driver. It's been pretty good, but if we remember when he played himself into contention, when he was playing against Adam Schenk at Memorial, the tournament before Memorial Colonial, his driver was a little bit iffy. And if you drive the ball iffy this week, I think it's going to be really hard from the rough to hit your approach shots. And I think Grillo's best part of his game this year has been his approach. So I'm a little iffy on the driver this week. And if you can get your ball into the hole from the rough for par, and how many times you can do that from the rough. So I know Poston's probably just as wild with the driver, but I just have more faith, like you said, in Poston's short game than Grillo's short game. So I am leaning a little bit towards Poston there. So interesting that you feel the same way. So let's go Poston. We talked about at the top, Hideki has made a nice move from, I believe he was 57th, and he went to, what did he go to? Where did he go? 57th to 47th. So he played his way in. He's got 2,444 points. You probably are sorry. That's how many points he had. He's got 942 points. He's going to need to get 500, 600 points. So he's going to need a top 3 performance. I mean, I'm just going to bet on the fact that he knows that, right? I think he's going to, he's like the upside kind of player. And, this lineup with Tony as captain already is betting on upside. So to me, I think they're just going Hideki here. And then this is definitely different enough that, I'm probably just no-braining Scheffler and Rahm here. Are you doing the same, or are we going Cantlay?
Yeah.
Are we going Hovland? What do you think on that?
I'd put them together for sure. I think it's no-brainer.
I can't hear you. Classic.
Oh, I said yes. I would do the same thing.
I can hear you now. We're good. Okay. Yes, we're doing the same thing. No galaxy branding here. We're just straight up building and jamming 2 of the best golfers in the world into this lineup. All right. I like this lineup a good bit. This will be in the 100K guaranteed cash, 10K to first. All right. Playoff contests. So I've got some interesting decisions to make here. I've said for a while that you probably needed, where are we going to go? Sorry, I'm going to go back to market here. I'm going to go playoff set. I'm going to go rare. I've said for a while that you're going to need a Rory, a Scotty, a Rahm to probably give yourself the best chance to win this thing, especially coming for next week. Of course, I should have bought previous to this week, and now I'm kind of sitting here like, man, do I really want to buy? I've got some fairly decent options: Fleetwood, Homa, Hatton, Glover, and then it gets dicey: Harmon, Fitzy, Keegan, and Grillo. So just jumping back to building, thinking that I honestly want to go out and buy a Rahm. 122 bucks.
Baby. Baby.
I think that will be the question. I think my lineup is going to be different enough to just captain Rahm, to play the chalk at captain, to not overthink, and then fill it out. So let's build subjectively thinking that I'm going to put Rahm in this captain spot. So let's just build these other spots. We'll for purposes of this, we'll just go like this. Rahm's going to go here. And then from there, you got to go.
I think if you type, can't you type playoff in the search bar?
Oh, I think you're right. Yeah. There we go. Good call. From here, I'm locking Hatton. Just too good. Don't really care about what happened last week. Just way too good of a golfer. Way too good of a season. So I'm locking Hatton in, but I'm interested in where you're at amongst these other guys, because frankly, I could go a lot of different ways here. When you've got Fleetwood, Homa, Harmon, Fitz, Keegan. I actually like Keegan a decent bit around this course. Interested in what you're thinking.
Yeah, I think they're all pretty good. Looks like you'll have enough to build 2 pretty solid lineups. I like both Fleetwood and Homa a lot. They're probably my 2 favorite guys in that range. So I'd probably just kind of chalk it up with those guys. I know it's the top rank that you had, and then now, I mean, good options here. Obviously, Glover's got the hot hand. Harmon also has the hot hand that has been playing really, really well. Do we just keep the glove train going here, or if you could make Glover the captain of your next lineup if you want to ride the train that way? But I do think Glover has found something here, and it's not like it's some crazy fluke.
I am riding the Lightning because of one shot. On Glover's 18th hole, needs to make par, has a chance to make birdie to win. Didn't make birdie, but man, he hit this draw with that water on the left-hand side that I was like so nervous watching. I was literally like, holy crap. He hit it in the water on the 18th hole with a chance to literally get into a playoff. And my God, it was perfect. It was literally 10 feet seemingly from the water on the left. I mean, just so much like confidence to hit that shot. I think the guy is playing on top of the world. He has absolutely nothing to lose. And when you're playing loose and free, I just think it's the best way to go about it. So yeah, I'm riding the Lightning. Lucas Glover here. I like him over top of every one of these other guys. The odds boards like him. Yeah. So I think this is where I'm going to go. I got 150 in my DraftKings account ready to go to make a purchase. I said Rory, but after hearing you say Rahm, after thinking about Rahm's history, after all season long liking Rahm over Rory, gonna go out and get myself a Rahm playoff card. So if you're a seller out there and you're in our ecosystem, happy to be a buyer from you directly. So I'll be getting my Rahm here in the next couple of minutes after the show and get my lineup submitted. All right. Anything else for the people this week? 41 minutes. I think that's all we need to talk about for a 50-person event. If you've got the best of the best cards, get them together, make a couple of differentiated plays in the 4th and 5th spot in your lineup, and be ready to enjoy one of the most fun contests from a Reignmaker standpoint. I know no cut, so you're not going to hear it's the best sweat from me, but it's going to be one of the most fun contests. Tons of money up for grabs. Is if you could run up the leaderboard on Saturday and Sunday, it's going to make for a heck of a performance. Had some awesome screenshots shared from winning lineups last week, and yeah, looking forward to doing all of that again with you all in our Discord come Saturday afternoon and Sunday evening.
Love it. Yeah. Lineup's looking good. Get those playoff contests in. And should we wrap it up with a little winner pick action here?
Love it. Give it to us. Send the people home with your winner's pick for the BMW Championship this year.
This week, I'm going to go with the guy. We don't talk about him a ton on the show, but he's been playing well. Last 4 events, finishes 21st, 12th, 10th, and then 6th last week. So improvement 4 events in a row. A proven winner on the PGA Tour. Max Homa going to be my winner pick for this week. I don't know. Something about it. I feel like Max is ready. Snuck into the top 10 last week. Feel like he's someone who does well on some difficult tracks and has the all-around game to make it happen. So obviously I've talked about Jon Rahm and I like him a good bit, but going with Max Homa for the winner pick. And he's like, what, 22-1, I think? So not terrible odds for an outright bet if anybody wants to sprinkle a little action on Mr. Homa.
Yeah, Max hasn't won since the West Coast swing went through the entire major season, of course, battling the media saying, can Max win in a heavy best of the best kind of field? Boy, it would be a statement win for Homa, especially for like heading into Ryder Cup, heading into next year's majors. Pretty awesome call.
He's ready.
So, he's ready to
take the next step, kid. Take the next step. Now's the time.
Absolutely love it. You heard it here from TJ. Can he get his 3rd winner of the season in Max Homa? All right, that'll do it for us. Catch you all in Discord. Get your lineup submitted. Make your purchases. Make your sales. If you're out there looking to sell a few cards, now is a great time. Seems like there's more Reignmakers action happening in the marketplace than ever. And of course, any last minute questions, comments, thoughts, hit me in the Discord. I'll be sure to respond. And let's go out there and take home some contests. I'll see you all in the leaderboards, and we'll talk to you all next week.
Peace.